It was a cold afternoon in late October when Daniel Turner found himself standing outside a bustling coffee shop, clutching the tiny hands of his two daughters as if they were his only anchor in the world, and in truth they were. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, not because the weather called for it, but because he couldn't shake the weight of exhaustion from the long shift he had just finished at the construction site. The wind bit at his skin, but Daniel hardly noticed. His mind was consumed with the never-ending list of bills he couldn't pay, the groceries he still needed to buy, and the gnawing question of how he could possibly give his girls the life they deserved. His eldest, Sophie, was 7, wise beyond her years, with soft hazel eyes that had learned to mask worry. Her younger sister, Lily, was 5, a bundle of joy who could make the world brighter with a single laugh, though lately even her giggles had grown rare. That afternoon, a moment occurred that would change all of their lives forever, and it began with a stranger's voice. Before I continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected miracles, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps bring more inspiring, heartwarming stories like this to people who need hope. Daniel had no idea that the woman standing a few feet away, dressed in a royal blue blazer and a skirt that seemed as crisp as the fall air, was about to shatter the fragile stillness of his world. She was the kind of person who seemed untouched by life's harsher edges. Her posture spoke of confidence, her jewelry glinted in the muted light, and even the way she carried her purse suggested a life of comfort. Her name was Cassandra Whitmore, though Daniel wouldn't learn it until much later. To him in that moment, she was just another stranger passing through the edges of his reality. Until Sophie let go of his hand, took a step forward, and said in the clearest, most innocent voice, "Say yes to her request, Daddy." Daniel blinked, startled. He hadn't heard a request, nor seen any indication that one was coming. But Cassandra stepped forward, her eyes shimmering with something he couldn't quite read. Pity, determination, or perhaps a touch of desperation. She explained that she had been sitting inside, sipping her latte, when she overheard a fragment of Daniel's conversation with Sophie about how hard it had been lately and how they couldn't afford certain things. Cassandra had seen the way his shoulders sagged, the protective way he held his daughters close, and something inside her had cracked. And then, without a tremor in her voice, she said words that seemed absurd, almost laughable in their boldness. "Marry me, and I'll help you raise your daughters." Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. He didn't know whether to laugh, to walk away, or to ask her if she was out of her mind. In his 34 years, he had faced hardships that broke other men, but he had never encountered anything quite like this. A beautiful, wealthy stranger proposing marriage in the middle of a sidewalk as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The girls stood there, wide-eyed, sensing something momentous in the air, but not quite understanding its weight. Daniel searched Cassandra's eyes, trying to understand her angle. Was this a joke, a cruel prank, or was it something else entirely? Over the next hour, as they sat at a corner table inside the cafe, Cassandra explained everything. She came from money, old money, but she had reached a point in her life where wealth no longer insulated her from loneliness. She had watched friends marry, start families, and find meaning beyond the cold ledger of business transactions. A few months earlier, she had been diagnosed with a medical condition that could make having children of her own difficult, maybe even impossible. When she saw Daniel with his daughters, something inside her whispered that this was the chance to have the family she longed for, not in a transactional sense, but in a way that was deeply, achingly human. For Daniel, the conversation was a whirlwind. Part of him wanted to refuse immediately. Pride burned in his chest. He didn't want charity disguised as love. Nor did he want his daughters growing up in a life they hadn't chosen. But another part of him, the one that stayed awake at night, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering how he could give his girls safety and stability, hesitated. Cassandra spoke of giving them a home, security, the chance to go to good schools, and the promise that she would love them as if they were her own. And yet, it wasn't her promises that lingered in Daniel's mind. It was the quiet sincerity in her voice, the way she didn't flinch when he told her the truth about his debts, his failures, his doubts. Days passed after their meeting, and Daniel found himself torn between two paths. On one hand was the life he knew, hard, uncertain, and lonely but honest. On the other was Cassandra's world, safe, comfortable, but wrapped in a question mark so large he didn't know if his heart could navigate it. He remembered his late wife, Emily, the woman he had loved since high school, whose death in a car accident had left him shattered. Could he truly let someone else in? Could he trust that Cassandra's offer wasn't just a fleeting impulse born of pity? And most importantly, could he bear the risk of his daughters getting attached to her, only for things to fall apart? The turning point came one evening when Sophie crawled into his lap after dinner, her small arms wrapping around his neck. She asked him, in her soft and steady voice, if they would ever have a real home again, one where they didn't have to move every few months, where she could keep her friends, where Lily could have her own bed without them sharing in cramped spaces. The question broke him in a way nothing else could. He realized then that love wasn't just about holding on to the past. Sometimes it was about giving your heart permission to find new ways to beat. When Daniel finally met Cassandra again, his answer was not what she expected. He told her he wouldn't marry her, not right away, but he would let her into their lives, not as a rescuer, not as a benefactor, but as someone willing to earn their trust. If she could show his daughters that her love was real, that her commitment wasn't just born out of a lonely afternoon, then maybe, they could build something lasting. Cassandra's eyes welled with tears, and for the first time Daniel saw not the millionaire, not the woman in designer clothes, but a human being willing to wait for love on someone else's terms. Over the months that followed, Cassandra became part of their lives in ways Daniel could never have predicted. She showed up to school recitals, helped with homework, and even learned how to make Lily's favorite peanut butter cookies after burning the first 3 batches. She never pushed, never rushed. She simply loved, in the quiet, consistent way that mattered most. And one day, a year later, Daniel found himself standing in the same spot outside that coffee shop, his daughters on either side of him, Cassandra in front of him. This time, it was his turn to speak life, changing words, marry me, and let's raise them together. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, and leave a comment to let us know how it made you feel. Your engagement helps us share more true, inspiring stories with the world. Special request: before you scroll away, take a moment to comment what part of this story moved you the most. We read every single one.